Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is a Town of Wareham annual fall town meeting, and I'm calling the meeting to order. I note that it's October 24th, 2022 at 7 p.m. Because we have a zero quorum, I note the presence of a quorum, and I also note that the warrant for this annual fall town meeting has been duly posted. So if we could, at this time, if you could stand for the presentation of the colors and the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And if you could just remain standing, I'd like to show some respect to some people that we've lost since the last town meeting. So if you could stand for a moment of silence, and I'd like to recognize Robert Bourne, who was a Wareham Fire District firefighter. Jerry Barrows, a longtime pillar for this town meeting. Ken Roach, the former selectman of the town. Richard Crocker of the Onset Fire Department. Fred Medina, a teacher in the Wareham school system. And Tony Samito, a janitor in the Wareham school system. So if we could just pause for a moment of silence for these people. Thank you. You may be seated. And ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to give a shout out to the Wareham Junior ROTC. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Before we get started, I'd just like to outline some ground rules, for lack of a better term. This meeting will be governed by town meeting time, Robert's Rules of Order, to the extent that each are adaptable to our town meeting, my rulings and authority pursuant to Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 39, Section 15, and the traditions of this meeting. Before we move to introductions of the people here that are up here in front of you, I'd like to entertain a motion to limit presentations to the proponent of 5 minutes and to all subsequent speakers on an article to 2 minutes.
So moved.
So moved. Second.
It's been moved and second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It passes by a majority. I'd like to ask Judith Whiteside, the chairperson of the Select Board, to introduce herself and the members of the Select Board.
Thank you. I'm Judith Whiteside. I'm the chair. Tricia Wirtz is our clerk. Alan Slavin is our senior statesman. Ron Bessie has the best beard. And Jared Chadwick is the tallest. I don't know.
Thank you. And Mr. Pigeon, Bernard Pigeon, is the chair of the Finance Committee, and I'd also like you to introduce the members of your committee, if you would.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. To your right, I'll start with Matt Rose, Tom Hannon, Norma Scoggin, Julie Moran, Jerry Stavinsky, and Tom Worthen. We all try and count the money as closely as possible, and we also enjoy doing it. Thank you.
And also present here, up here on the stage with me, to my immediate right is Richard Bowen, who's town council, our town administrator, Derek Sullivan, and deputy moderator, Joseph Ashley. At this time, in accordance with the bylaws, I will call the roll call of the department heads. If you could just signal your presence just by saying here. Accounting, administration, assessors, conservation, council on aging, community development and planning, health, municipal maintenance, natural resources animal control, natural resources harbor master. Yes, I know there's some overlap. Police, school department, EMS, town clerk, human resources, treasurer collector, inspectional services, library, sewer, veterans agent, and zoning and planning. And also, you probably have already figured this out already, but to my left at those tables, this is a section for the non-voters. So if you're a non-voter, you need to be over there. If you're a voter, you need to be in these two sections that I think you're already sitting in. So ordinarily, you select the articles by lottery to select what order they will be taken up in. I have a certification from the select board authorizing or directing me to certify that Articles 6 and 30 should be taken up together and first, and that Article 29 should be taken up immediately thereafter. So with regard to Article 6, is there a motion on Article 6?
Madam Moderator, I move that the town hear occasional reports from committees.
Is there a second on that motion?
Second.
Motion made and seconded to hear the reports of the committees. It's not a debatable motion. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes by majority. So I understand that there are two committees that wish to give reports under this article. If their respective representatives could come up to the microphone that's here in the center.
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me okay? My name is Jonathan Dahlmeyer. I met
Mr. Dahlmeyer, wait till you're recognized, please.
I apologize.
So if when people stand up to speak, if you could state your name and your address so that we have that for the record. So, Mr. Dahlmeyer, I understand you're here to speak for the DECA Study Committee. So why don't you identify yourself and then proceed.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. My name is Jonathan Dahlmeyer, address 504 Main Street, Wareham. As has been said, I'm the clerk for the steering committee, hanging up my hat this evening at the conclusion of this meeting. I came to speak and just provide an update on the DECA steering committee. We voted last week to provide our final report to the town. It's 107 pages. It should be available on the town website through our page tomorrow. I'm going to drop this stuff off with Matt Underhill. Just to take you through a brief summary of what the committee found. Architectural assessment of the DECA school building, we found that there are no severe or significant things that would prevent us or the community center from moving in there right away. There were some small things about spalling on concrete steps near curbs. There was some concerns about some of the bathrooms not being ADA compliant, but there were no structural concerns. The 2017 ADHERA asbestos report done by the school said that all concerning asbestos has been mitigated when the roof was replaced, and at this point, nothing would require any further remediation unless there was some construction that obviously touched some of these asbestos areas. For the financial part of the plan, we had come up with a proposed budget of what it would cost. Roughly, it would be about $400,000 a year to run the building as a community center, inclusive of utilities, staffing costs, sort of incidentals like fire inspections, things like that, at a cost of about $5.23 per square foot. As part of the plan, we figured out how to pay for the building, and that was through ideally renting out space in the school to community organizations like a Head Start organization, other nonprofits that could come in and both make the community better while also helping to offset some of the costs of the town. We identified about 27,000 square feet of the school, around about a third, that was segregated off from the building where there could be some privacy for these tenants who are interested. And we did an analysis to figure out what rate for rental would be fair. And we came up with about a $16 per square foot per year number, which multiplied by the 27,000 square feet nets about $432,000 to the town. So there's a potential for actually profit generating to help fund some capital expenses, things like that. Those budget numbers are strictly what we considered rent, what could be feasible with renting out the building. We did identify some other sources of income through things like solar canopy leases, putting solar panels on the roof or in the parking lot like they have at Upper Cape Technical Schools. There were some other grant opportunities we identified, but since those were sort of, you can't rely on those as much, we didn't include those as part of it, that first calculation, but they are identified in the report as potential items we could pursue as a town to help offset costs. Most critically, we did a community survey in June and July. We asked through the town website and at handouts at community events what people felt about the community center. Responses were collected through the town website. We had 354 responses, which is pretty good. That's bigger than some town meetings. And 75% of respondents were either strongly supportive or supportive of the community center idea. Critically, we had some big key takeaways there. We asked the question, do you support the community center as you understand how we want to fund it? And we found that people supported the community center irrespective of how we propose to fund the building. This has been something that's been on the town master plan for years and years, something that's been near and dear to senior citizens' hearts in this town for a long time. So there's a big desire, a big want in this town to have a strong COA, multi-generational facility where people can enjoy the beautiful things we have at Deaconess. Looking further at the survey, we asked the notional question, what would you use at a community center? We had a list of 14 or 15 things. And we found that most folks wanted adult education classes, a COA portfolio, the playgrounds, the fields there, the beautiful fields. Those are the things that were identified as the most valuable. And using this DECAS for anything else would give those things up. For social needs, we asked a couple questions about socioeconomic questions about, do you have access to effective child care, or have you ever had problems getting to appointments? And we found that in town, about half the respondents reported that they did not have sufficient child care, and about three-quarters said they didn't, or I'm sorry, two-thirds said they didn't have access to quality elder care in town. So some of the people that came before our committee to express interest in leasing space directly address some of these needs. So there's a dual benefit of both funding the building so it's not a burden to the town, but also greatly expanding these portfolios so people who are in need have access to these services in town. We put together some ideas of notional timelines. We figured about 18 months or so from start to where the community center would be in a 100% operational capacity. That includes...
Mr. Dahlmeyer, I hate to interrupt you, but you have about 30 seconds
okay.
left in your presentation, so if you could...
Sure. So the big points of the plan were that the town can afford it through this rental subsidy program here that we developed. There's the community wants it. There's a lot of support for it, and the building is ready to be moved in with some cleaning. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And I recognize Claire Smith, who I understand will be speaking for the Police Building Study Committee. Claire has my same issue. Thank you for helping. And while we're doing that, I'd like to thank Wareham Community Television for setting this all up, and also give a shout out to the school department and its employees. As you may be aware, the space is usually used as a cafeteria, so the school department has very graciously moved the cafeteria setting aside and set this up so that we can use it. Go ahead, you have the floor.
Thank you. My name is Claire Smith. I live at 10 Drive in West Wareham. I chair the Public Safety Complex Study Feasibility Study Committee. The town of Wareham recognized the need for a new police station over 25 years ago and has hired professionals to provide unbiased reports of where we stand and what is needed for the future of Wareham. In September of 1995, Allen M. Lieb Architects reported that the most severe deficiencies found within the existing facilities are first and foremost space, which leads to the second biggest issue, which is security. In 2007, the Public Safety Facility Study by Reinhardt Associates stated, the Wareham Police Headquarters has outgrown its existing headquarters at Cranberry Highway Route 28. That study concluded that the existing police building is inadequate and dysfunctional, and that construction of a functional and secure police facility should not be delayed, and recommended building a new facility on the vacant town-owned property on Minot Avenue. In 2019, Fall Town Meeting voted to approve Article 1 of feasibility study to see if the town would vote to raise, appropriate, transfer, or borrow a sum of money for a feasibility study or a preliminary design for a new public safety complex. A new committee was formed to oversee the study and included representatives from the Police Department, EMS, the Wareham Finance Committee, and the Board of Selectmen, among others. After issuing a request for proposal and evaluating the bidders, Wareham awarded a contract to TechCon Architects from Hartford, Connecticut on March 17, 2022 to prepare a feasibility study for the town of Wareham, inclusive of the police, EMS, and Department of Natural Resources. TechCon began collecting information in March 2022 and developed a timeline for the various tasks which needed to be included, which included a walkthrough of existing facilities, working with the police, EMS, and other departments to prepare a report on existing conditions, conducting programming interviews, and development of the spatial needs study. A spatial needs study is a report of the required spaces and adjacencies needed for the occupants of the facility to effectively function, not only for today, but also to plan for the next 50 years of growth in Wareham. The report was completed on May 17th and provided sufficient detail to drive the plans for a new facility. Although the committee has spent the last 2 years reviewing potential sites in town, including locations suggested by our town planning director, selectmen, town assessor, and meeting with private landowners such as A.D. Makepeace, having a professional architect review the sites provided a new perspective on potential locations. Having completed a spatial needs assessment, TechCom was able to use its years of experience to determine how a police station, EMS, and other town needs, like a fire station or senior center, might fit on a particular parcel of land. With this background, TechCom was able to draw test vets, which are sketches of sites selected by the committee as being most appropriate for a new facility. These initial ones included the Deacon's School, on which multiple test sites were developed showing how athletic fields and other town needs like a senior center or the fire department might work together with the police and EMS. Minot Avenue. We looked at Charge Pond Road, Route 28 near the gas facility. We also looked at Zero Cranberry Highway as the intersection of Route I-95. We also looked at properties owned by Makepeace on Main Street across from the Methodist Church and the Town Hall. These were among many others that we looked at, but these are the more prominent ones. The test fit drawings allowed the committee to visualize how each site might work and included details like local wetlands and athletic fields, proposed on-site traffic flows, and access to roadways, as well as existing and potential future uses of the property, and so much more. To assist the committee in the evaluation process, TechCon developed an evaluation matrix, which included looking at the location in town. Location is critical for first responders, such as fire and EMS, but not so much for the police, who are constantly in their private sectors, the different sectors that they cover in town.
At 30 seconds.
Okay. Is there adequate space for the police, EMS, or the town needs, like a senior center or even a fire station? So there were several matrices that we looked at that were non-political that every site would have to meet. As the committee prepared to make a final determination of the candidate sites, the town administrator asked the committee to consider the option of
So,
moving.
we're at,
Can I just ask for 1 minute?
5
More?
minutes, that's fine.
Okay. The town administrator asked the committee to consider the option of moving the police department into the existing town hall. As with all the other locations, we needed to do a complete review and develop a test bit of how the town hall property could be utilized to meet the conditions of the programming, which included the request for proposal. The initial test bit did not include several of the considerations outlined in the RFP, so after meeting with the committee, TechCon had to go back to the drawing board and rethink the overall concept and include the traffic flow and other needs of the school department, parking for Plainfield, as well as adjacent town-owned properties that could be used for a new EMS. Although the town hall has the square footage required for the police station, modifying existing spaces for a new use is a challenge. The committee will be moving forward with finalizing the evaluation of the town hall option, and once that has been completed, the next step will be to formally determine the best option for the town. Once that's been completed, TechCon architects will develop more detailed drawings and enable them to hire, as part of their contract, a professional estimating firm to develop an estimated budget for the selected site. A final report will be prepared and presented by TechCon when the feasibility study is completed.
Thank you, Mrs.
Respectfully
Smith.
submitted to all the members of the committee.
Thank you, Mrs. Smith. Are there any other committees that wish to have their reports heard? Seeing no one standing, we'll move to Article
29.
Article 20.
29.
Madam Moderator.
Before we get started, so there is also an Article 30, which was to hear the report of the DPS Study Committee. We've already done that, so that was completed. We're now on Article 29, which is a private petition article. Is there a motion on Article 29?
Madam Moderator, it's a petition article. Very typically, the petition itself would make the motion.
I motion to consider Article 29.
So it's Mr. Dahlmeyer again. What's your motion?
To consider Article 29. I can read it. I move favorable action on Article 29 for the town to approve and accept the recommendations of the Deaconess School Steering Committee as presented and authorize such action by the town administrator as is required to implement the committee's recommendations.
You have that in writing?
Here's the motion.
I do have a copy if you like it, yes.
Yes, you do have that in writing. So
I memorized it.
Go ahead, Mr. Dahlmeyer.
So I'll be brief. As I said, I just spoke a few minutes ago, but the recommendations, the final recommendations of the steering committee was to move forward with this plan to relocate the senior center, the Council of Aging, to the DECUS, start the process of figuring out RFPs, what kind of responses would we get to the facility, who would be interested, are there long-term lease possibilities there, start figuring out inventory. The report that we put together as a committee lays out all the sort of steps to get from point A to point B. We're talking about a crown jewel for the town here, something that we can really be proud of. We don't have to see seniors going to Bourne anymore to their community center. That's something that we could have here in town. I live just up the street. It'd be wonderful for my daughter to continue playing on those playgrounds. I know the athletic clubs in town would love to have those fields. So I urge the town to move favorably or act favorably on this recommendation by the steering committee and see the rest of my time. Thank you.
Thank you. And I did not ask for a second. Is there a second on this motion? So a motion by Mr. Dahlmeyer has been moved and seconded. Before I recognize speakers, I understand, and I'm sure he'll correct me if I'm misstating. I understand that with regard to town council, that with regard to this particular motion and article, that it would be considered a resolution only, because this body, as a legislative body, is not permitted to direct the executive branch, the town administrator, to do specific actions. But please. And again, if you could state your name and your address. You want to come to the microphone? I can't hear you.
I rise to question the moderator's determination on that particular, related to that particular article, on whether it be a referendum or falls under the town charter, section 4, article 4, subsection P. Thank you.
So my ruling would stand. I'll defer to town council on that.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Jim, which subsection was that?
What was that? A P K G.
A P.
Yeah, it's subsection P, or section P under the article, section 4, I believe.
Thank you.
Yep.
Madam Moderator, through you to the previous speaker in the meeting. So the real question is, what have we got here? And is there a real question as to whether town meeting can act on Article 29? And just taking the questions in reverse order. Yeah, town meeting absolutely can act on Article 29. That's not an issue. It's a citizen's petition. It's on the warrant. But I think as you consider if town meeting were to vote favorably on this article, I think it's important to look at the language of the article itself. The citizen drafters of this article chose their words with very great care. It's obvious. And it looks to me, not only did they work with great care on this, but they took legal advice in doing so. So what the article says is to see if the town will vote to approve and accept the recommendations of the Deacon's School Steering Committee as presented. We've heard the report. And authorize such action by the town administrator as is required to implement the committee's recommendations. And then the rest of it is just legalese. Not said disrespectfully either. So if there was favorable action, I think this is where there may be some misunderstanding. If there was favorable action on this article, or on this motion, as I should say, would this compel the town administrator or the Board of Selectmen to follow the recommendations of the Deacon's School Steering Committee as presented? And the answer is no. There are two reasons for that. Number one, the article itself does not use the word compel. And I think that was a smart choice on the part of the drafters. It says to authorize such action by the town administrator as is required. And the reason why I think that was a wise choice of words is that under the charter, the town administrator already has care, custody, and control of the building as an asset. So technically speaking, it's not necessary for town meeting to authorize the town administrator to act. He already has that authority. There's a second component to it. Back, I guess I would call this, the third town meeting where we dealt substantively with Deacon's school issues. The first one was the one where the property was transferred pursuant to Chapter 40, Section 15A, I believe, to the Board of Selectmen for a broad variety of purposes. And so that put and to move it from the school committee. And town meeting voted, I don't recall whether it was unanimous, but it was pretty close to it. That put the building into the control of the Board of Selectmen. Town meeting took that vote. Town meeting put it in the control of the Board of Selectmen. Now, at a subsequent town meeting, there was a motion where town meeting voted, pardon me if I put it kind of colloquially, said, well, hey, you know, we hear that the Board of Selectmen may be thinking, or the town administrator may be thinking of selling this property off and putting in whatever. And so there was an expression of will by the voters of town meeting that the purpose for which the selectmen hold the property be less broad than the original vote. Now, there was somewhat clumsy language, but eventually it got to the point where town meeting voted that obviously the Board of Selectmen still had control of the property, but the Board of Selectmen would not have the authority to sell the property. So, for example, if anybody had the idea to invite developers in to build condos, I don't know what, that power was removed. So where things sit today is that the Board of Selectmen, pursuant to your vote almost 2 years ago this upcoming December, took the property from the school committee, gave it to the Board of Selectmen. You later limited the purposes for which the selectmen could use the property, and you crossed out the part of your original vote which said that the selectmen could sell the property. They no longer could sell the property, at least until the final report of the Deacon's Committee, which we've heard. And under the charter, until such time as the town decides what is going to happen to the property, or the Board of Selectmen decides what's going to happen to the property, it's under the custody and management of the town administrator. Okay, so that's the factual and historic background to where we are right now. So, as of now, we're presented with this article to approve and accept the recommendations of the committee. We've heard the report. Authorize such action by the town administrator as is required under Section 4 of the Charter. The town administrator already has considerable authorization, but of course, you put the property into the hands of the Board of Selectmen, so the Board of Selectmen have their say. Now, the Madam Moderator's, sorry, I'm going to bring it to a close here. Madam Moderator recited that this was a resolution, and in effect, she's right. It's not a resolution as in it's some meaningless gesture. No, it's however you happen to vote on this is an important expression of political will. But it's an expression of political will, and I think the drafters of this article very wisely recognized that this is not compelling the town administrator. It doesn't order the town administrator. It doesn't order the Board of Selectmen. It says to authorize. I think that power is already there. And so what we're really dealing with here is the expression of your political opinion as to what ought to happen next. So that's my opinion. Thank you for listening.
Well, thank you.
Thank you, Town Council.
Thank you for your opinion. I think we'll see what the vote comes out to. But the charter also states that
You need to
the charter
speak up
also
a bit.
the charter also states that in interpreting the charter, it should be broadly interpreted and not narrowly. I think we're getting very, very myopically focused on how we want to interpret specific words. Thank you.
I'm going to recognize Town Council just briefly.
I have great respect for Jim's, pardon me, Madam Moderator, the prior speaker's thoughtfulness. I do just want to point out that some of this is governed by state statute, specifically Chapter 40, Section 15A, and some of the prior votes where you transfer the property were pursuant to state statute. Thank you.
I saw her first. All right, Mr. Slavin, go ahead.
I'm not speaking for or against this article. My concern basically was, when we had our meeting a little bit earlier, was to make sure there was clear and concise communication, which is Selectman Wertz's policy when she ran, to make sure communication came out to the public. I'm concerned that the body would have a full idea and understanding what this article could or could not do. And basically, town council has explained it as best as possible. We're not here to make the town more divisive as it has been lately the last few years. We're trying to do the right thing. The bottom line is that we have people that think they want to do something one way. The town administrator actually has taken a holistic approach to this whole situation and has come up with basically 4 areas to solve at one time. The Board of Selectmen, after listening to everybody, made their decision to go ahead and support what the town administrator wants to do because it's feasible. It involves obviously the police department as well, and the actual engineer, etc., on the police department came back and basically said it is possible to take town hall and make it in there. The final numbers will come through. The information we got initially was that most likely it will cost a lot less than building a brand new place. But I want to make it clear that we're not here to sit there and make everybody mad at each other. We're just trying to do what's best for the town, not just short term, but long term. And I want to make sure that people understand that we're not hiding things. We're not sitting there and trying to go behind the scenes or anything else, or we're trying to bypass what the people want. What we're trying to do is give you a brand new council on aging, give you a town hall that functions better, give you a police station that will work better, and give you a community center, which would be in the multi-service center. Thank you.
Lady in the middle, you have the floor.
Thank you. Diane Kenny, I live in East Wareham. Over 2 years ago, Jim Eunice came up with the idea that since the Deacon's would be closing, that it would make a great community center. Over several months, he gathered together a group of people to work on that. And then that group of people submitted some citizens petitions. That group met with the Board of Selectmen at the time and agreed to a compromise, which was, as we all know, we sent it to a committee. That's usually where things go to die, or further study. But it didn't die there. We've been working for a year on a report. The architect of the report, John Dallmeyer, you heard him earlier speak. It's a 107-page report. We're not going to give you that report tonight. It's been online. Hopefully you've seen it. It's feasible. It's doable. As we just heard, there are now several other plans for the Deacon's School. One is for the town hall to move into the Deacon's School along with the COA, and for the police to move into the current town hall, which would then free up the, whatchamacallit, that's a little preliminary plan. One of the problems that we've had all along with the Deacon's steering committee is that people wanted definite plans.
30-second mark.
Yep, people wanted definite plans. The plan to move everything around, I was very interested to hear it when it came out, but I think moving the police station in front of the high school is just a terrible idea. I think the traffic over there is horrible already, but if that's what's best for the town, that's what's best for the town. It's feasible. We either get a community center or we don't.
Ma'am, your time is up.
Could I get one more minute, please?
One more minute.
You did vote. You voted twice for the Deacon's School already. And as Attorney Bowen mentioned, it's the will of the people. What's happened is no matter how many times we've voted, our government doesn't want a community center. That's the truth, which is what you just heard here. So vote yes again tonight, and let's see what happens.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to be heard on Article 29?
Yes,
Sir,
my
please say
name.
your name and your address.
My name is David Hurd. I'm in Precinct 3, and I read this and say I move to accept the recommendations of the Deacon's School Committee as presented. And I understand there's 100 and some odd page recommendation that I have not seen. I don't know exactly what they're planning on doing. So I find it very hard to vote for this at this particular point in time. I think they should present it, put the recommendations out, let people read them, and then we can vote on them. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Leslie Edwards Davis, Precinct 1. We started looking at this almost 18 months ago because it was a building that had been vacated because the town felt it was no longer what they wanted to use for a school. They wanted to build a new school. It was going to be sitting empty, and we thought, hey, here's an opportunity to take a building that now is not wanted for its purpose and repurpose it cost effectively to meet a bunch of the needs that Wareham has had for years and years and years and has kicked down the road without solving. A new COA that's all on one level, that is safe, that gives them all the space they need for their activities and programs, a place for youth to have programming after school, a place for us to expand early education and care options for families, a place where we could have dynamic activities and events for the entire town, multi-generational. This was a building that people didn't want. We have to remember that. And we came up with a creative reuse plan that actually would bring money into the town, not cost us money, through rental of the space, and still be able to provide these great services that we need in this town. We've voted on this twice already. And so what I would ask you to do tonight is to remember all the folks that can't be here tonight with us, the mothers who are home with their children doing homework, who need after-school care, the parents who need more affordable childcare in this town, who don't want Head Start to leave, who want them to expand what they can offer, and they can do that in Deaconess, the seniors who weren't able to get out on this rainy, dark night. I would like you to remember all of Wareham. I acknowledge, thank you. I would like you to remember all of the town and vote accordingly, because in 10 years, in 15 years, I would like us to look back on this and say, we made the right decision. We made the right decision. We repurposed something cost effectively and solved our issues. Very important. Please vote yes.
Recognize the chair of the select board.
I apologize for not standing. I just would like to...
Understandable.
Yeah. I just would like to clarify some things. The plan that has been endorsed by the Board of Selectmen creates a Council on Aging in the back of the Deaconess School with its own separate entrance, its kitchen facilities, as well as its own parking space. Town Hall would be located in the Deaconess School, and all of the departments would be available on one floor. As you know, we go up and down stairs quite a lot in Town Hall. The other thing that this plan does is it frees up what's known as the Multi-Service Center. Several years ago, that building was renovated to the tune of, I think, $2 million, and it is, in fact, a community center. Head Start is going to be staying in town. So I just want to clarify that. And the endorsement, unanimous endorsement from the Board of Selectmen for moving the town hall to the Deaconess School to make it a town hall makes sense financially, fiscally, and it provides all of the things that the seniors have asked for, and it also creates one-stop shopping for our citizens. Thank you.
Gentleman at the microphone.
Jared Frederickson, Precinct 5. You know, we've heard a lot about this other plan that the Board of Selectmen has endorsed. But the fact is that plan isn't even a plan yet. We don't have any idea how much it's going to cost. We don't have a lot of the even most basic details of what that plan is. What the Deaconess Steering Committee has presented to us today is a comprehensive plan. It's 109 pages, and to a previous speaker, is available on the town website for anybody to read if and when you should decide to do so. But this is a plan that simply makes sense. It's fiscally responsible. It's actually revenue generating for the town. So if that's not fiscally responsible, I don't know what is. And you know, we can go on all day about this other plan that is still incomplete and at best inefficient and ineffective. But what we have before us right now is an opportunity to fulfill a need that our community has been talking about for 30 years, ever since the 90s. We need a community center. We need a good place for our Council on Aging, for our seniors. And this provides more than enough for even more than what our seniors have been asking for and what the members of our community have been waiting for a very long time. There are very few downsides to this plan, so delaying a move, or the recommendations, excuse me, of the steering committee that we just received tonight would be, I think, a big disservice to this town, especially doing it in the name of a plan for a police station town hall that we don't have any details on yet. That's all I got.
Thank you. Yes, lady at the microphone.
Nadia Mellum, Swift's Beach. I'm an architect, and I helped put together the report. I did the architectural portion of this report, as I understand it, the committee was not allowed to include their report in the handouts today at the door, which would be why, as the previous gentleman mentioned, he hadn't seen the report. It is online, but we weren't allowed to hand it out here. I do want to address some of the architectural questions that have been raised with the proposal for moving Town Hall to Deacon's, which is that there is no plan, it's just an idea. I mean, that's essentially at least a $10 million project to turn that into a town hall where, as the steering committee has assembled in their report, this is essentially a net zero cost to bring a community center to the town of Wareham. We don't need to renovate things. We don't want to have seniors segregated from the rest of the citizens who want to use the community center. Keeping the seniors segregated in their own facility along with town hall, it just doesn't seem like a very holistic approach, and it certainly does not use the building to its greatest capabilities. I don't know that everyone has had a chance to look through the report, but generally when we do these kinds of things at town meeting and committees put together a report,
30 seconds.
The voters vote on the recommendation of that committee. You've heard their recommendation, so to say that you haven't done the research ahead of time, that you could have shown to the meetings. You could have shown up to the meetings. Thank you.
Annie Hayes, 52 Farmers Lane.
Wait.
Yes?
Yes, go ahead. Please say your name and your address.
Norma Scoggin. I'm Precinct 3, and I'm a member of the Finance Committee. And I have seen the report. And I have a couple of concerns that I think the whole body should consider. One is the report itself, I think, really backed into a particular result. And I understand why. I understand there's strong feelings and strong desires to meet some needs within this town, and I appreciate that. However, we've been told tonight that it would be 18 months before this property could be rented, fully rented at the supposed rate of over $400,000 a year. Number one, how do we pay for the building in the meantime? And number two, we don't have any guarantee of getting $400,000. We have no guarantee that anybody beyond a couple of small organizations might want to rent this place. We probably don't even have a guarantee of that. So as a member of the Finance Committee and of a town that is constantly struggling to find the money to pay the things we absolutely have to take care of, I have strong reservations about that. And I do think it's premature to vote on something that most of you have not even seen yet.
Yes, lady at the microphone.
Annie Hayes, 52 Farmers Lane. I want to respond to a couple of points with that. I have 3 solar arrays that I've put on residences and benefiting, no payment necessary. I've spoken to a company in New Bedford, and the Deacon's is the perfect municipal building for solar. It is a roof that would catch sunlight for its entirety, and that would bring in enough certainly to pay for the utilities. Also, if there were a canopy in the parking lot, which is all things we talk about with solar, and any municipal buildings with solar on, no. We keep talking, and the trees and the forests keep getting torn down. So that's one point. I'd also like to address, I am a senior. What I would really love to do is to be around people of all ages. I have a master's in special needs. I would love to tutor for no cost at all for kids who need it. I would love to be in theater. I've been in theater. I'm an artist. I've been in arts centers and helped found them. This is what a multi-generational center is about. It's about life, vitality, not seniors in one little niche next to offices for the whole town. And I'm sorry, but one-stop shopping is not a rationale to negate the possibility of an all-town center. Another thing that I want to point out is that we have just seen this horrific map of sea level rise by 2050. And one thing that I would like to...
You're at 30.
Okay, it takes a village to have children raised well. These kids are going to be facing this future. With 1 inch, homes are going to be unlivable. We have so many small houses and families in all the beach areas, and they will all be affected. And we have to start planning instead of building new buildings on the downtown. Thank you.
Time. Thank you.
Jim Manise, excuse me.
Yes, Mr. Manise, go ahead.
Precinct 4. A few years ago, there was an economic report put out by the WRA who was recommending to sell the property, demolish the building and sell the property. I did not like that. I do not want to see commercial industrial land crossing Main Street. I'd like to see that continue to be a bucolic road. Police station report in 2021, I believe it stated that decus would no longer be a consideration. So what could we use it for? So we took a number of tours through there and talked to a number of people, and it all kind of came together as what could do for it. So we came up with a plan, we made some presentations. Town meeting has supported it. As part of those recommendations was to put out RFPs. How can you know that you're not going to generate the revenue if the RFPs haven't been sent out for responses by qualified groups to the town showing what revenues and interests they were? By not doing this, you're stopping the idea and the process to move forward. I don't think that's in the best interest of the town. If it's economically feasible, to redo it for town hall, move town hall there. Irregardless of that, we should move the seniors there first, because both plans say, the seniors should go there. Move town hall there, take and renovate town hall for a police station, build a new emergency
30
services. I hear you. Emergency services building where there is now a parking lot, and turn the multi-service center into a multi-service center to accommodate what we don't know. And last thought, we talk about MCAS and the needs of our school system.
Your time is up. Your time is up, Mr.
Can I have 30 seconds?
30 seconds. Talk fast.
30 seconds. So if we take and expand the services of Head Start and increase the numbers, hopefully with a qualified preschool program, it would enable our children in the town to be better prepared to go into the K through 12 program and increase our ability to have higher test scores and help our town out and the children out. Thank you.
Thank you. Lady at the microphone.
Thank you. My name is Judith Itis. I live at 16 Peter Cooper Drive. And I have a question on the plan of moving the town hall, the police station to the town hall and the other facilities to the town hall. I just was wondering if that was done and the Board of Selectmen decide to do that. Is the present police station going to be sold for commercial development, or what are they going to plan to use the current building for? Maybe that's a premature question.
Oh, thank you. The plan is to sell that building to help offset the costs overall of the new police station and such.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your time.
Yes, sir, gentleman at the microphone.
Ron Enos, Precinct 3. I make a motion to move the article.
Second.
We have a motion made and seconded to move the previous question. It's not debatable. It requires a 2/3 vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It's passed by 2/3 majority voice vote. So we'll now proceed to a vote on the motion on Article 29, which others have informed me is behind me. And that is, I move favorable action on Article 29 for the town to approve and accept the recommendations of the Deacon's School Steering Committee as presented and authorize such action by the town administrator as is required to implement the committee's recommendations. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed signify by saying nay.
Nay.
The chair is in doubt, so I'm going to call for a hand count. So all those in favor of the motion, please raise your cards, and I ask the tellers to come forward to make the count. All those in favor. Yes, sir, on my right.
Have 40, 4-0.
Oh, did anyone come from the left? And on my left, 15. And also, I note 0 in favor at the front tables here. All those opposed to the motion, please signify by raising your cards. On my right, 25. 28. On my left, 28. And on the front stage, 12. So I have 55 in the affirmative and 65 in the negative. The motion has failed. We will proceed now to the I'm sorry, I'm getting advice here. So we're going to proceed to the consent agenda. I think those of you who have attended town meeting in the past are familiar with this, and what we try to do is to group together motions which we believe to be fairly routine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask for the motion in a second, and then what I will do is I will read each of the articles that are present on the consent agenda. And if there was anyone here that objects to any of these items being on the consent agenda, please just signify by standing up and saying aye or something when the article is called. Is there a motion on the consent agenda?
Madam Moderator, I move that the town approve Article 4 by transferring $287,780.88 from the PEG Access Receipts Reserve for Appropriation account to Wareham Community Television, WCTV. Approve Articles 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 13, and 20 as printed in the warrant, and further that the town pass over Articles 2 and 3, and that Article 25 be referred to the planning board for further study.
Second.
It's been moved, the consent agenda has been moved and seconded. Let me read the individual articles that have been listed. Article 4. Hearing no objection, that will stay on the consent agenda. Article 7. Seeing no objection, that article will also remain on the consent agenda. Article 8. Seeing no objection, that article will remain on the consent agenda. Article 9. Seeing no objection, that article will remain on the consent agenda. Article 10. Seeing no objection, Article 10 will remain on the consent agenda. Article 12. Seeing no objection, Article 12 will remain on the consent agenda. Pardon me. Article 13. Seeing no objection, Article 13 will remain on the consent agenda. Article 20. Seeing no objection, Article 20 will remain on the consent agenda. Article 2. Seeing no objection, Article 2 will remain on the consent agenda. Article 3. Seeing no objection, Article 3 will remain on the consent agenda. And finally, Article 25. Seeing no objection, Article 25 will also remain on the consent agenda. I see no one standing to be heard with regard to the consent agenda, so we will go to a vote. All those in favor to the consent agenda as presented on the screen, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, signify by saying no. It passes unanimously by a voice vote. We're checking on our lottery system here. 25 was also, I believe, there's been further study. Article 21, is there?
Excuse me, moderator, I'd like to ask you to restate your consent agenda number 1, because what I have printed in front of me says that the town will pass over Articles 2 and 3, and it sounded like you read that they would be included.
No, we've
done that. The passing over Articles 2 and 3, I believe, were part of the consent agenda. It was in the motion?
Yes. They're telling me it's okay.
Thank you. So we're at Article 21, I believe.
Madam Moderator, I move that the town approve this article as printed in the warrant.
Is there a second on the motion?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Oh, sorry, strike that. Is there a report from the planning board, this being a zoning article?
Yes, Ken Buckland, Director of Planning and Community Development. Madam Moderator, through you to town meeting. In accordance with state law under Chapter 40A, Section 5, public hearings were held by the planning board to hear testimony on the zoning bylaw amendments proposed in the articles on the warrant. The hearing for Article 21 was held on October 3rd, 2022. The recommendation of the planning board on this article is favorable. Explanations will be presented for each article as needed. All of these articles require a 2/3 majority of town meeting to pass.
Thank you, Mr. Buckland. I've been a bit remiss here. Is there a report from the Select Board on Article 21?
The Board of Selectmen voted 4-0-0 to recommend favorable action.
And is there a report from the Finance Committee, a recommendation on Article 21?
The Finance Committee recommends approval by a vote of 7-0-0. This is just changing some minor language to make the whole bylaw consistent.
Mr. Buckland, is there anything further that you wanted to say by way of explanation of Article 21?
Only that the Board of Appeals and the Building Commissioner both have found this bylaw to not be broad enough to properly apply to the permits before them. This expands the criteria to include all zoning lot standards rather than just setbacks, such as lot area, frontage, and coverage. So this applies to non-conforming lots and under the zoning bylaws.
Is there anyone else that wishes to be heard on Article 21? Seeing no one standing, we'll proceed to a vote. Article 21, being a zoning article, requires a 2/3 vote. We'll try for a voice vote first. All those in favor of Article 21, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, signify by saying no. The motion passes by unanimous voice vote. Article 11.
Madam Moderator, I move that the town approve the bylaw as printed in the Finance Committee report, but with the following correction, to which section 1.109.0 should read, vessels left on town of Wareham property, beach, or shoreline public dinghy docks.
Second.
May I have the vote and the recommendation of the Board of Selectmen?
Yes, the Board of Selectmen voted 4-0-0 to recommend favorable action.
And may I have the vote and recommendation of the Finance Committee?
Yes, the Finance Committee approved recommending this article by a vote of 8-0-0. The Finance Committee recommendation includes that the proposed waterway rules represent a comprehensive set of rules which incorporate and expand existing bylaws to provide more consistent and clear regulations addressing access to and enjoyment by the public of Wareham's waterways. The waterway rules will allow the Wareham Department of Natural Resources and Harbor Master to more effectively monitor and regulate the use and misuse of the town's waterways and waterfront amenities, including mooring fields, dinghy docks, for safe boating and other purposes. The rules clarify the process of which a resident may access a mooring field, be added to the wait list, apply for and obtain a mooring permit, and regulates the installation, use, maintenance, and routine inspection of these town moorings. It also allows for imposition of fees associated with the mooring process, and also increases penalties for repeated violations of safe boating rules. Thank you.
Recognize the Harbor Master, please.
Good evening, Gary Buckminster. First, I'd like to say happy anniversary, honey. We're spending our anniversary at town meeting for, I think, the third time.
Congratulations.
So, woo! So anyway, I want to get that away. Thank you for joining us all with our anniversary. I just want to back up what was just spoken about with the Finance Committee. The Town of Wareham's first structured waterways rules and regulations were adopted at Fall Town Meeting in 1998, and they were approved in 1999. They've served the town for almost 24 years, and in that time we've seen the waterways dynamics evolve, making portions of the original bylaw no longer applicable. After a thorough review of the bylaws, we determined that it was the best choice was to replace it in its entirety, which is presented to you. It was at the door. It's also in the Finance Committee's handout that you received, so you have two options to look at it. What we've created was utilizing the original
waterways rules and regulations. It did build the foundation for what we are presenting to you today. The purpose of the waterways, proposed waterways rules and regulations is to define and clarify the decision-making processes by establishing uniform definitions, procedures, and standards for activities having an impact or effects on the waterways and coastal areas of the town of Wareham, and the harbor master would be empowered to carry out the rules and responsibilities set forth under these waterways rules. The proposed bylaws address coastal mooring vessels, waterway management, coastal public property management and allowable uses, recreational activities, guidelines and rules, preservation of shellfish and natural resources, vessel operation and enforcement, freshwater pond regulations, commercial use regulations. There was a public hearing held on October 11th. It was posted in the local newspapers, also on the town's website. The waterways regulations were also available at the town clerk's office in the Department of Natural Resources. And basically what you'll have before you is a 55 subsections, which is a total of 16 sections, and 21 new subsections. So there are some updates and there are some things that we carried over because the original bylaw regulation did work in those areas, and we felt it was important to keep. So thank you for your time.
Is there anyone else who would like to be heard on Article 11? Seeing no one else standing, we'll proceed to a vote. All those in favor of Article 11, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, signify by saying no. Passes by a voice majority. Article 16.
Madam Moderator, I move that the town vote to appropriate $2 million for the purpose of developing engineering plans for a capital improvement project to replace the headworks, including the payment of all costs incidental and related thereto, and that to meet this appropriation, the town treasurer, with the approval of the Board of Selectmen, is authorized to borrow said amount under and pursuant to General Law, Chapter 44, Section 7, or pursuant to any other enabling authority, and to issue bonds and notes of the town therefore.
Is there a second on the motion?
Second.
It's been a motion made and seconded on Article 16. Is there anyone that wishes to be heard on Article 16?
Hi, Pete Dunlop, Sewer Commissioner. I'd like to give my time to GHD. They're our engineering outfit. They can better explain this article. It also they'll explain Article 15 if we can do them together.
Well, I think we'll take one article at a time.
Thank you, Moderator.
Thank you. I'm sorry. You were over there before, so
Yes.
I'll give you the courtesy of the floor. Please proceed.
My name is Mark Drainville. I'm with GHD Incorporated. We're a civil and environmental engineering firm. We do have a presentation, if Matt could bring it up. So I do understand that we're only going to be considering Article 16 right now. If I could, I'd like to talk about both articles because they're very related, if that's okay.
Are they related? They don't seem to be the same project.
They're at the same facility. They're both related to the same facility.
All right, so why don't you can address Article 16 and then we'll take Article 15 up after Article 16. So why don't you address both? That will save us a bit of time.
Okay, thank you very much. Next slide. So I'm going to speak about Article 15, which is a $2 million appropriation for developing engineering plans for a secondary clarifier upgrade and replacement, and Article 16, which is a $2 million appropriation for developing engineering plans to replace headworks. Next slide, please. So both articles address critical infrastructure that has been compromised due to age, excessive wear, and changes in design standards over the years. The equipment is 20 to 40 years old and is beyond its useful life. Both articles also assist in efforts to keep the town compliant with the permit that's been issued by the Federal Environmental Protection Agency and the Massachusetts Department of Environmental Protection. This slide just shows the town's existing wastewater treatment facility. It's very critical infrastructure to the town. The two red circles indicate the existing infrastructure, and the yellow boxes just show the upgrades and where they're proposed. And I'll talk a little bit more about the need. Next slide, please. So Article 15 deals with a secondary clarifier. This is critical to meeting the permit and protecting downstream filtration equipment. It currently does not meet current design standards. Next slide. You can see the photographs on the right here. This is the secondary clarifier and related equipment. Age and excessive wear have rendered equipment inadequate and unreliable. Next slide. Article 16 is the headworks. This is critical to protect all complex facility processes, and age and excessive wear have rendered this equipment ineffective. Next slide. In addition, this is a highly corrosive environment, and that has compromised the equipment integrity. Next slide. This is a critical need for this particular facility. The town has requested consideration for state funding for this work. The engineering that would be funded by these two town articles is required to design improvements and also to apply for the funding. Although neither project will eliminate the moratorium, they are both building towards the ultimate solution. The funding that the town is applying for, there's a couple of very key components. One of them is a low-interest loan that's going to range from between 0 and 2%. There's a principal forgiveness component to this, which is like a grant. And then funding from the federal infrastructure bill, which is available now for less than 5 years, is also in play for this funding. Next slide. The potential costs of no action, there are several. Fines due to permit violations, losing eligibility for the attractive financing, unknown legal fees, losing access to grant funding, and compromised economic growth. Next slide. A yes vote on both articles will allow the town to develop designs and submit an application to the state to maintain eligibility for funding these very important projects. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anything further to be said on, we're going to take these one at a time in terms of comment. Is there anything further to be said on Article 16?
Pete Dunlop once again. I just want to reiterate, without us doing the engineering studies, we can't apply for these fundings. So the engineering studies are really mandatory. Thank you.
And gentleman behind Mr. Dunlop.
I'm Neil Sullivan, Groveland Street, Nauset. And just a couple of questions for clarification. It sounds like we're asking for an aggregate $4 million for I guess, a study or to develop engineering plans. Do we have an understanding of a couple of things? How much does this entire project cost and how it will be funded? I no doubt we desperately need it. And can we explain and get any further clarity on the principal forgiveness opportunities to offset some of those costs?
Is there anyone here that wishes to answer that question? Questions?
So principal forgiveness is similar to a grant. The difference is that the town needs to appropriate the full amount, and when the loan starts, then the state would grant a reduction in the principal that is owed. Not the entire amount. It's To be determined once the town applies for the funding. It's not the entire amount, it's a portion of it. So the project.
So what I'd like to, if I could just interrupt just for a second, if you have follow-up questions rather than a dialogue back and forth between yourself and the engineer, which most of us actually can't hear, if you could direct any questions or anything that you'd like to say to me, and I'll direct it to the appropriate person.
Okay, the first part of the question had to do with, do we know what the entire cost of the project would be? It's the cost would be estimated as part of the design. Right now, we're estimating that it could be between $20 and $40 million.
Anything further to be said on Article 16? Article 16. Mr. Manise.
This is Article 16. Thank you. I thought it was, but I just wanted to clarify that. What's the cost to retrofit, renovate the current building where the headworks are located compared to the cost to build a new headworks? And what pool of money will this be funded from? Will it be funded out of the enterprise, Water Pollution Control Facility Enterprise Fund? Or will it be funded through general town government? And will the engineering contracts be put out for bid, an RFP? So if we could get those questions answered, that's a good start. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Manise. If there's anyone here that can answer those questions. No?
So, well, those are concerns that I have. I'm not saying, and also...
let me just pause you there for a second,
Sure.
Mr. Manise. Is there anyone from the sewer department or the engineer that might be able to answer your questions?
So there are a couple of points you raised. One of them is what's the cost differential between retrofitting and putting something new in? Correct. So as part of the design process, we would be looking to see if it's feasible to reuse what is there. If it's possible to reuse it, we would certainly do that, reuse it. Okay. You had other questions that I couldn't remember all of them.
I thank you for that, and I'm glad that would be part of it. And again, I don't think anybody's here to answer the question on how it will be funded, which pool of monies. Would it be coming out of the enterprise fund, or will it be coming out of the general fund for bonding? For the here comes someone.
If there's anyone here that's able to answer that question, please step up and identify yourself.
Hey, Moderator, Guy Campy in the Sewer Department. The enterprise, the debt will be paid back out of the enterprise budget.
Thank you. We don't know if the contract will be bid out for the engineering. I know it's not a requirement, but it's a sound practice when you're dealing with large sums of money. Nothing against the current engineering firm which provided some information. I guess that's it, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that wishes to be heard on Article 16? Yes, ma'am.
Annie Hayes, 52 Farmers Lane, sorry. I listened to Mr. Campina talk to the Finance Committee about the money for this and the need for it. And I'd like to mention that he talked about redundancy. If there were redundancy in the system, then parts could be fixed while the redundant service is being used. So when we look at this, perhaps in the future, redundancy could be an issue that is going to present, a whole new systems rather than parts for repair or fixing parts. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that wishes to be heard on Article 16? Seeing no one else standing, I will call for a vote on Article 16. This is an article for borrowing, so it requires a 2/3 vote. All those in favor of Article 16 as it appears up in the screen, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, signify by saying no. It's passed by unanimous voice vote. Since the previous speaker, the engineer, had also discussed as part of his presentation Article 15, I will take that out of order. So if you could see Article, you're way ahead of me there. Is there a motion on Article 15?
Madam Moderator, I move that the town vote to appropriate $2 million for the purpose of developing engineering plans for a capital improvement project for a secondary clarifier upgrade or replacement, including the payment of all costs incidental and related thereto, and that to meet this appropriation, the town treasurer, with the approval of the Board of Selectmen, is authorized to borrow said amount under and pursuant to General Law, Chapter 44, Section 7, or pursuant to any other enabling authority, and to issue bonds and notes of the town therefore.
Second.
Article 15, the motion as appears on the screen, has been moved and seconded. May I have the report of the Select Board?
The selectmen voted 4-0-0 to recommend favorable action.
And may I have the vote and recommendation of the Finance Committee?
The Finance Committee voted 7-0-0 favorably, and we recommend this project.
Is there anyone that wishes to be heard on Article 15? Yes,
Jim
please.
Manise, Precinct 4. Will this be paid for out of the enterprise fund along with the other? And if so, how are these increases just from the engineering going to impact our storage bills moving forward? And what's the amount of the impact to the sewer users?
Is there anyone here that wishes to answer those questions? Mr. Campina. I'm sorry. No, you don't get to leave.
Madam Moderator of the Board, it will be paid again through the enterprise budget. The debt will be paid. I think his other question was. So you're asking, I don't have a specific number at this meeting to what the increase, if any, to the sewer rates would be. But again, it's being funded through the enterprise budget. And so when you do the budget, if there's not enough funding to pay the debt, a consideration of increasing the rates would be there. But I have no exact numbers at this point in time.
Mr. Camerano? Oh, you need to turn your mic on.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. The only problem I have here is we need the project. The sewer department's one of the keys to the town. But when you're paying it out of the enterprise fund, don't hold me to the exact number, but I believe there's only like 53% of the people that are sewered in Wareham. So, but everyone in the town actually benefits from the sewer department. But yet the town is relying on just the sewer users to foot the bill. And I believe that the sewer department should try to find out some way to get money from all the Wareham residents to help pay. I just don't think it's fair that a little over half of the people are footing the bill for everyone to enjoy what the sewer department does for the town, the clean water and everything else. Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Manise.
I kind of agree with the previous speaker's statement in the sense of if these projects are going to increase the quantity of outflow that we can produce from the, was it 15 million gallons per day to 20 or more. And it should be taken, you know, in order to help with the with growth of the town, which everybody says increases, you know, economic growth within the town, and everybody should bear a portion of it. I know in the last couple of years, my storage bill has gone up from 500 to 600. I don't know, they're over 700 now. So these increases are going to be substantial. So if it's to increase the ability of the plant to put out more outfall, then everybody should have to pay a little bit. It's just my opinion on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Gentleman behind you.
Thomas Becky, Precinct 1. To the two previous speakers, with regard to the notion that people who are not on the sewer should pay for the sewer users or subsidize them, I have a private individual septic system, and if anybody's had a new system put in recently, they can range from $20,000 up to $50,000 if you have a nitrogen removal system. Also, there's an annual cost to run a nitrogen removal system, including testing, of about $1,500 a year. So to think that the septic system users are getting some benefit from the town and not contributing to that benefit is a mistake. And so, in addition to that, there's a several $100 every few years to have the septic system pumped out. So we're not getting a free ride with respect to keeping the waters of the town clean. We're doing our fair share, and I think the people that have the benefit of the sewer should in fact pay their fair share. And I would love to be hooked to the sewer, but it'll never come down to Great Neck. It's just simply too far and there are not enough houses. So I object to the notion that people on septic systems are not contributing to the improvement of the waterways in the town of Wareham. Thank you.
So, is there anyone else that wishes to be heard on Article 15? Yes, ma'am, you have the floor.
Donna Fox Rubin, Highland Shores Drive in Wareham. The only observation I have is this. This article has implications that affect our ability to get grants, to be compliant. It's a multi-armed octopus. And I look at being part of a town as taking care of the total health of the town. If I'm a resident and I don't use the library, that doesn't mean I shouldn't contribute to the library. If I'm a senior and I don't have children in the school system, that doesn't mean I shouldn't contribute to the school system. If I'm lucky enough to never need EMS, that doesn't mean I shouldn't contribute to its support. So I think we have to look at this from the perspective of the global health of the town.
Thank you. Anyone else that wishes to be heard on Article 15? Seeing no one else standing, I'll call for a vote on Article 15 as presented on the screen. And again, this is a borrowing article, so 2/3 vote is required. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by stating no. Passes by a unanimous voice vote. Article 24.
Madam Moderator, Article 24. I move to amend the Wareham zoning bylaws by adding under Article 11, Section 1172, the following. Signs shall not exceed more than 25% of the glass area of any window or door of the businesses.
Second.
So, Article 24 motion has been moved and seconded. May I have the report of the Planning Board?
In accordance with state law under Chapter 48, Section 5, public hearing was held by the Planning Board on October 3rd, 2022. Recommended action by the Planning Board was favorable action, a vote of 5-0-0.
Thank you. May I have the report and the recommendation of the Board of Selectmen?
Board of Selectmen voted 400 for favorable action.
Thank you. May I have the report and recommendation of the Finance Committee?
Finance Committee voted 700. The Finance Committee's, excuse me. The Finance Committee recommendation, this article is for safety of our first responders and the public.
Is that, Mr. Buckland, you still have the floor if you wish to give an explanation.
Yes, this, through you, Madam Moderator, this bylaw serves two purposes when allowing people from public areas to see inside a storefront. For public safety, it allows emergency responders to see what's going on inside the business during a response call. From an urban design perspective, it enlivens the street and attracts more people to the business.
Is there anyone else that wishes to be heard on Article 24? Yes, Mrs. Slavin.
Yes, Sandy Slavin, Precinct 3. If I look at page 20 of the warrant, it continues to say, of each business facing each street or parking lot in which they are displayed. Are we voting on what's in the warrant or what I see in front of me?
We are voting, pardon me, we are voting on what's moved up on the screen.
So it's not what's in the warrant.
Let me take a look at that.
Madam Moderator, if you will, should Mr. Buckland, can you tell us what you want us to vote on?
Yes, I can. The planning board, after the public hearing, discussed the article and decided that this wording was better than what was previously proposed in the article, and so this is what they're recommending to town meeting.
What's up here now?
What's up there on the screen? Yes.
Thank you.
Is there anything further to be? Is there anything further to be heard on Article 24? Anyone else that would like to speak? Mr. Slavin.
Okay, folks, so we have the usual Alan's going to the garage again. Basically, the reason for this article is, basically what happened is, for some reason, when we did the sign bylaw update a year or so ago, this particular piece was left off by accident. It's not a Scribner's error, it was just left off. And the reason being is I actually had an experience out west where there was a robbery at a gas station convenience store. And basically the convenience store had signs everywhere, you couldn't see them at all. And the police basically had to hold off going in. And when they finally went in, there were some issues with actual gunshots, etc. So this pre-existed for quite a while, and basically we just made an error not including it when they redid the actual sign law a few years ago. Thank you.
Thank you. The lady behind Mr. Buckland.
Nadia Mellon, Swiss Beach. I just want to point out that what this might cause to happen is that buildings will get built with less windows and less glass. So that makes it even more dangerous. So that's all.
Is there anything further to be said on Article 24? Mr. Hannon?
Yeah, Tom Hannon from Onset, Precinct 3. You're not going to get what your desired result is because it should say window coverage, not signs. So somebody could put vinyl, or they could put a different coverage on the windows, but because you're saying it's a sign, it would only apply if it was an actual sign. So they could put window coverage over, they could do 100% coverage, and this article is not going to get you what you're desiring.
Thank you. Is there anything further to be said on Article 24? Seeing no one else standing, we'll go to a vote on Article 24. The motion being, I move to amend the Wareham zoning bylaws by adding under Article 11, Section 1172, the following: signs shall not exceed more than 25% of the glass area of any window or door of a business. Because this is a zoning article, it requires a 2/3 vote. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by stating aye. Aye. Any opposed, please signify by stating no. The chair declares that there's a 2/3 by 2/3 majority by voice vote. Article 23.
Madam Moderator, Article 23, zoning bylaws, moratorium on marijuana social consumption establishments. I move to amend the Wareham bylaws, Section 399, as printed in the warrant.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is a report of the planning board on this article.
Yes, Madam Moderator, through you to town meeting. The planning board held a public hearing on this article on October 3rd, 2022, under Chapter 48, Section 5 of the state law. The planning board recommends favorable action and a vote of 5-0-0.
May I have the report and the recommendation of the Board of Selectmen?
Board of Selectmen recommends favorable action, 4-0-0.
May I have the report and recommendation of the Finance Committee?
The Finance Committee voted 7-0-0. Their recommendation. Although permitted, the state has not formalized their regulations regarding this issue. A moratorium will allow the town to wait until the state has released their regulations and avoid any conflict with local regulations.
Mr. Buckland, you still have the floor if you wish to make any further explanation.
Yes, Madam Moderator, through you to the town meeting. This reinstates the one-year moratorium that was passed and put in place 3 years ago. The state has not advanced the licensing standards for a marijuana cafe, so we are postponing any action for another year while we wait for the state regulations to be adopted. This does not mean that the state regulations will be created in that time frame, but at least we'll be in place to wait until see if they are done at that time.
Thank you, Mr. Buckland. The lady behind you.
Good evening. My name is Judy Grassi. I live at 34 Church Avenue. I'm asking that this be assessed, further studies, and put the degree of how to establish how we're going to do this in this town to the Board of Health. Because it's not been determined by the state or pretty much any other states how the reimbursement of the settlement money is from the opioids. From what I understand, it's going to go into the general fund as cash, and it's supposed to have a paper trail, and it's supposed to be held accountable for each money spent, kind of like how the monies that came out from the Affordable Care Act, from the CARE Acts and everything. So I would ask, since we don't have a good handle on what's going on with the drug usage in this town, from Toby Hospital, the people being dumped out in the streets with all sorts of medications, the methadone clinic that doesn't help with fentanyl testing. The hospital doesn't help with fentanyl testing. There's a bottleneck in beds all over the state. We had mental health beds that were supposed to be appropriated at Toby Hospital, and that hasn't been done yet. They don't have the appropriate staff to be able to do that. We let them be in our town, and they are exploiting the people here. And I recommend that this have further study and to be gone through the Board of Health.
So are you making that as a motion to amend?
Yes, I am.
Study? So if you could put that in writing, your motion will be motion to amend Article 23 for further study and referral to the Board of Health. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Madam Moderator, while we're waiting, a point of clarification. I interpret this article as asking for a one-year moratorium, and that's the extent. Is that correct?
Yes.
I was wondering how the amendment goes beyond that, does it not?
No, it does not, because she's moving to for further study, to amend it for further study and referral to the Board of Health.
Further study for
Further
a year's
study
moratorium.
and referral to the Board of Health.
Mr. Chairman, I think you're asking on the clarification of what further studying the moratorium does. So then there's no moratorium.
Correct.
They can come in.
Correct. So there's been a motion to amend Article 23 for further study. To the Board of Health. Is there a second on the motion? Motion to amend made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion to amend? Yes, sir.
Madam Moderator, Peter Titlebaum, Precinct 3. The body should realize that marijuana usage in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts is governed by the Cannabis Control Commission and the laws that created it and gave it the authority to regulate marijuana. A referral to the Board of Health accomplishes nothing. They don't have any jurisdiction over marijuana. I don't see that they can be used as a shakedown entity to go into the hospital and get money for other purposes. And so I just don't see what this would achieve, so I'd ask the body to vote down the amendment. Thank you.
Is there anything further to be said on the amendment? Mr. Slavin.
The reason for the moratorium is very simple. The state of Massachusetts, the Cannabis Control Commission, which controls all of this, has already approved social consumption. They're working on the final details. It could come at any time at all, which means they can locate, if we don't have some zoning in place, as far as where they can locate, how many they can have, etc. If it comes through, this town voted for marijuana. I think it was 57% for it. If it comes through and the laws come through, say a month from now, you could have all kinds of places anywhere they want. The moratorium just gives you the chance to come through and say, where do we want these? How many do we want, etc. We have to have it, whether we like it or not, simply because we voted for marijuana originally in the town. So what they're asking for right now accomplishes nothing, but also takes the risk that the Cannabis Control Commission a week from now or a month from now finalizes the rules. You could have everything in place. Thank you.
Is anything further to be said on the amendment? Seeing no one else standing, we'll go to a vote on the motion to amend, which is for further study of Article 23 to be done by the Board of Health. Requires a majority vote. All those in favor, please signify by stating aye. All those opposed, please signify by stating no.
No.
The amendment has failed, so we return to the main motion on Article 23, which is now appearing up on the screen. Is there anything further to be said on Article 23 as originally moved? Seeing no one else standing, we'll go to a vote on Article 23, and this is a zoning bylaw change, so it requires a 2/3 vote. All those in favor of the motion on Article 23, please signify by stating aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by stating no. Passes by a unanimous voice vote. So we're going to take up Article 18, and because it's related closely to Article 19, we'll take up Article 19 after we take up Article 18. Is there a motion on Article 18?
Madam Moderator, I move that the town vote to, hold on one second. I move that the town vote to approve this article as printed in the warrant.
Is there a second on the motion?
Second.
There's been a motion made and seconded. May I have the vote in the recommendation of the Board of Selectmen?
Board of Selectmen recommended favorable action 4-0-0.
May I have the vote and recommendation of the Finance Committee?
The Finance Committee voted 7-0-0 to approve.
And Mr. Dunlop, are you advising to speak to Article 18?
No, I don't need to speak to Article 18, it's 19.
Is there anyone that wishes to speak on Article 18? Seeing no one standing, we'll go to a vote on Article 18. All those in favor of the motion to approve this article as printed in the warrant, please signify by stating aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by stating nay. It passes by unanimous voice vote. Article 19, is there a motion on Article 19?
Madam Moderator, I move that the town appropriate the sum of $6 million to pay for the capital improvement project to align the fourth main sewer line from the Narrows Pump Station to WPCF, a distance of approximately 1.9 miles, including the payment of all costs incidental and related thereto, and that to meet this appropriation, the town treasurer, with the approval of the Board of Selectmen, is authorized to borrow said amount under and pursuant to General Law, Chapter 44, Section 7.1 and 8.14, or pursuant to any other enabling authority, and to issue bonds and notes of the town therefore. All or any portion of the borrowing and authorized by this vote may be obtained through the Massachusetts Clean Water Trust established pursuant to General Law, Chapter 29C.
Is there a second on the motion? Motion's been made and seconded. May I have the vote and the recommendation of the Board of Selectmen?
Board of Selectmen recommended favorable action 4-0-0.
May I have a vote and recommendation of the Finance Committee?
The Finance Committee voted 7-0-0 to approve. This is a project that we've already approved as a town, but the original, which is the one we just went through, they wanted $3 million. When it went to bid and came back, the bids were a lot higher. In order for us to make this project happen, and this is something we need to get done, this will be a project that we have to do.
Is there anyone else that wishes to be heard on Article 19?
Yes, this pipe, when we originally agreed to line it, we thought $3 million would do it, but it didn't come close. But this line was tested by engineers. It's 40% decay, so it's a ticking time bomb. This pipe runs from the Narrows to the plant. That means that everything in Wareham, all the way up to the industrial plaza, Wareham Crossing, Rose Point, Cremisa, Briarwood, Swifts Beach, the high school, the town hall, the hospital, and all of the town flow through this pipe to get to the facility. If this pipe breaks, we're in a world of trouble. The reason we are going for $6 million is all of the bids came in excess of $5 million. We're going to 6. We hope we don't have to spend it, but at the rate inflation's going, we asked for $6 million. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anything further to be said on Article, on Article 19? Seeing no one standing, we'll go to a vote on Article 19. Again, this is a borrowing article, requires a 2/3 vote. All those in favor of the motion on Article 19, please signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please signify by stating no. It passes by a unanimous voice vote. Article 26.
Madam Moderator, Article 26, Boiler Replacement Project, Wareham High School. I move that the town appropriate the amount of $2,462,614 for the purpose of paying costs of the boiler replacement project at Wareham High School, 7 Viking Drive, Wareham, Mass. 02571, including the payment of all costs incidental or related thereto. The project, which proposed repair project would materially extend the useful life of the school and preserve an asset that is otherwise capable of supporting the required educational program, and for which the town has applied for a grant from the Massachusetts School Building Authority, the MSBA, said amount to be expended under the direction of the School Building Committee. To meet this appropriation, the treasurer is authorized to borrow said amount under Mass General Laws, Chapter 44, or pursuant to any other enabling authority. The town acknowledges that the MSBA's grant program is a non-entitlement discretionary program based on need as determined by the MSBA, and if the MSBA's Board of Directors votes to invite the town to collaborate with the MSBA on this proposed repair project, any project cost to the town incurs in excess of any grant that may be approved by and received from the MSBA shall be the sole responsibility of the town, and that, if invited to collaborate with the MSBA on the proposed repair project, the amount of borrowing authorized pursuant to this vote shall be reduced by any grant amount set forth in the project funding agreement that may be executed between the town and the MSBA.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded on Article 26. Is anyone that wishes to be heard on Article 26? Mr. DeAndrea.
Thank you. Matt DeAndrea, Superintendent of Schools. This project will replace the 6 existing boilers at the high school. They are the original boilers from 1991. 3 of those boilers no longer work. There will be 5 new boilers, more effective and efficient boilers, 4 new hot water tanks, including new mixing valves, expansion tanks, and pumps. We are receiving 71.58% reimbursement from MSBA, and that amounts to $1,762,739.10 in reimbursement. The town of Wareham would pay $773,206. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that wishes to be heard on Article 26?
Madam
Yes.
Moderator, my name's Stacy Smith. I live at 7A Chapel Lane. Just wondering where that remaining money is going to be coming from. Are we voting to raise and appropriate? Is the school going to borrow money? Is there money available in current COVID funds that the school still has that could be applied to that? Just looking for more explanation.
Yeah, thank you. The plan right now is to borrow, especially when you're appropriating through an MSBA project, you have to have the availability for the full $2.4 million. That's, but our total net cost should be, I'm calling it 800, but it's about 773,000. So at that point, when that's done, my recommendation, because I believe we'll have about 5 million certified in free cash, when certified to offset that cost with free cash.
Okay. So is there no more COVID money that the school has?
That would have to be a question for the school.
Can you speak to that? Through the moderator?
Well, wait.
Can the superintendent speak to that through you?
Yes, so,
Okay.
yes, if you're able to answer that question, please.
Yes, the COVID money we've been using to,
Madam Moderator, point of order. Has nothing to do with that.
It's funding.
Has nothing to do with the other.
Please, no, please, we're not gonna have this argument back and forth. It has to do with the funding. If the superintendent of schools wishes to address that question, please.
yeah, that money, the COVID money has been committed.
Thank you. Is there anything further to be said on Article 26? Seeing no one else standing, we'll take a vote on Article 26, which is a borrowing article also. This requires a 2/3 vote. So all those in favor of the motion on Article 26, please signify by stating aye. Aye. Any opposed, please signify by stating no. It passes by a unanimous voice vote. Article 14.
Madam Moderator, I move that the town approve this article as printed in the warrant.
Is there a second?
Second.
The motion on Article 14 has been moved and seconded. May I have the vote and the recommendation of the Board of Selectmen?
Board of Selectmen voted favorable action 4-0-0.
May I have the vote and the recommendation of the Finance Committee?
The Finance Committee recommended approval of this Article 8-0-0. This article requests a total transfer of $37,000 from the Harbor Services Permits Receipts Reserve for Appropriations account to the Harbor Master's Maintenance and Improvement account. $9,500 of the requested funds will be used to upgrade outdated and obsolete base-style UHF radios on 2 department patrol boats, which will continue to provide communication access for municipal police, fire, EMS personnel, and also access by neighboring towns. The balance of the funds, $27,500, will be used for routine maintenance and replacement of various equipment used by the department, as well as navigational aids, municipal moorings, docks and piers, disposal of marine debris, and updated safety equipment as needed, such as life jackets, tow lines, and other related equipment. All these are necessary to ensure the safety of our waterways.
Thank you. Is there anything further to be said on Article 14? Oops, don't do that. Is anything further to be said on Article 14, the Harbor Services Permit Receipts article? Seeing no one standing, we'll go to a vote on Article 14 as moved. All those in favor, please signify by stating aye. Aye. Any opposed, please signify by stating no. Passes by a unanimous voice vote. Article 27.
Madam Moderator, Article 27, Roof Replacement Project, Wareham Middle School. I move that the town appropriate the amount of $1,500,000 for the purpose of replacing a portion of the Wareham Middle School roof, including the payment of all costs incidental and related thereto, and that to meet this appropriation, the town treasurer, with the approval of the Board of Selectmen, is authorized to borrow said amount, and under pursuant to General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 7-1, or pursuant to any other enabling authority, and to issue bonds and notes of the town therefor.
Second.
Motion on Article 27 has been made and seconded. May I have the vote and the recommendation of the Board of Selectmen?
Board of Selectmen voted favorable action 4-0-0.
May I have the vote and the recommendation of the Finance Committee?
Finance Committee recommend approval, 7-0-0.
Is anything further to be said on Article 27?
Thank you. This project also is a partnership with Massachusetts School Building Authority. We conducted a feasibility study for this project to replace the roof at the middle school. The roof has failed. There's been multiple leaks. There's been times during the past school year where the school day had to be canceled due to the leaks. The feasibility study came back with the project costing over $8 million to replace the roof. It was decided to break the project into two parts and take care of the section of the roof in most need of repair. That's what this $1.5 million will be used for. Section A, which continues to leak, will be replaced this summer. We will come back to the Springtown meeting with a warrant article to replace the remainder of the roof in the summer of '24.
Thank you. Is there anything further to be said on Article 27? Seeing no one standing, we'll go to a vote on Article 27. This is another borrowing article, so it requires a 2/3 vote. All those in favor of the motion on Article 27, please signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please signify by stating no. It passes by unanimous voice vote. Article 1.
Madam Moderator, I move that the town vote to authorize a lease purchase financing agreement in the amount of $450,000 under General Law, Chapter 44, Paragraph 21C, for a maximum term of 3 years, and transfer $225,000 from the town's stabilization fund to fund the capital purchases as stated below. For the police department, description is to purchase with equipment 7 vehicles at a cost of $450,000. This is a 3-year lease purchase agreement, and it will be funded every year through the police department capital line. Municipal maintenance, the description: upgrade, repair, and replace streetlights and period lights, costs $225,000, funds from the stabilization fund.
Second.
Been a motion made and seconded on Article 1. May I have the vote and the recommendation of the Board of Selectmen?
Board of Selectmen recommended favorable action 400.
May I have the vote and the recommendation of the Finance Committee?
Finance Committee voted to approve 700. The Finance Committee recommendation: typically, capital expenditures include equipment, building repairs, and asset maintenance costing greater than $25,000 that are needed to run the town safely and efficiently. Health and safety are given a priority. Capital needs are identified by department heads and reviewed by the Capital Planning Committee prior to approval for acceptance on the 5-year capital plan. The final list of items to be funded under the capital plan is made by the town administrator based upon town-wide priorities and available free cash, as well as outside funding sources.
Is there anyone that wishes to speak on on the motion on Article 1?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Just going through as what's on the screen, the explanation. Without certified free cash, we've reduced what we are doing. So you'll see the first one is the police department, which is to purchase and equip 7 vehicles. That is through a capital lease, so that's a lease purchasing agreement. The total cost of that is $450,000, which is spread over 3 years. In the police budget line, you'll see salary, expenses, then capital, and that $150,000 is in their budget for this fiscal year, and we'd put it in for the next 2 as well. This is the methodology that we've been following. The next one is municipal maintenance, upgrade, repair, and replace street lights and period lights. The $225,000. The reason why I'm going forward with this, requesting that you take action on it, is we currently have approximately 1,700 streetlights in the town, of which 1,000 have been upgraded to LED. There's 700 left. The total cost to upgrade those 700 is approximately $173,000, with almost 68,000 in incentives. So the total cost would be about 105,000. You have to pay all of it to get the incentives back. Also, with these streetlights, we've opted, because you get better incentives and save money, to add photo controls on the top that will dim the lights by 50% starting at 11 p.m. through 5 a.m. Interestingly, they say that the human eye cannot tell the difference between approximately a 30% dimming and the 50 should be barely noticeable, but it helps with some of the, people call light pollution into the homes, but also helps with the animals as well. So this is something that's been working in other communities. The remainder of the funds is to set up so we can buy some materials for the period lights and keep that going as some of the lights get broken, which don't just need regular repair. Some of them are run over by vehicles through accidents. So we'd have these funds aside. So, and that the stabilization fund has approximately 4.49 million, so afterwards there'd be 4.26 million still in the stabilization fund, and what we would do is put that money back in at the spring town meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sullivan. Is there anything further to be said on Article 1? Seeing no one standing, I'll call for a vote on Article 1. All those in favor of the motion on Article 1? Again, this is a stabilization fund transfer, requires a 2/3 vote. All those in favor, please signify by stating aye. Any opposed, please signify by stating no. It passes by unanimous voice vote. Article 22.
Madam Moderator, Article 22, Amendment of Zoning Bylaw, Article 12, New MS4 Regulations. I move that the town amend the Wareham zoning bylaw Articles 5, 7, 12, 15 to add regulations for pre- and post-construction site management as required by the MS4 program as printed in the Planning Board handout.
Second.
Is there a second?
Second,
It's been
yeah.
moved and seconded on motion on Article 22, as stated in the Planning Board handout, which was available at the tables out when you checked in. May I have the vote and the recommendation of the Board of Selectmen?
Board of Selectmen recommend favorable action 400.
May I have the vote and the recommendation of the Finance Committee?
Finance Committee recommends approval of this Article 700. Changes are required to comply with the U.S. EPA's MS4 permit, which has to do with storm sewer discharge.
And may I have the report of the Planning Board? Mr. Buckland?
Yes, the planning board met on October 3rd for a public hearing to consider this under Chapter 40A of Section 5 of the state law and recommends the Article 500.
Thank you. Is there anything further to be said on the motion on Article 22? Oh, I thought he was getting up to speak. All right, so is anything further to be said on Article 22? Yes, Mrs. Slavin, please.
Sandy Slavin, Precinct 3. Is it possible to tell us what MS4 means? It's just a bunch of letters and numbers. I've heard it before. I just didn't know whether the body understood what it means. MS4.
If there's anyone that can answer the question as to what MS4 means. Yes, Mr. Buckland.
The words in it are for a municipal stormwater system. No, small stormwater system. I don't know the other S. There are 4 S's in it, whatever that means. And it has to deal with the stormwater systems in the urban areas of the municipalities. That's something that the town owns, the drainage systems in the road and the discharges to the streams and the rivers in town. And the pollution that's associated with that comes under the Federal Clean Water Act. And this goes down to a permit that was issued to the state of Massachusetts, and a permit that we have to follow as well. And so there are regulations for, in this case, for during construction that for sediment erosion control, and post-construction where the stormwater has to be maintained, the stormwater systems have to be maintained to reduce impact to the receiving waters. So this is something that the EPA has required us to do, and so we don't get fined, we're doing it.
Thank you. Is there anything further to be said on Article 22?
Municipal separate storm sewer system.
Thank you.
All right. Is there anything further to be said on Article 22? Seeing no one else standing, I'll call for a vote on Article 22. This is another zoning bylaw change, so it requires a 2/3 vote. All those in favor of the motion on Article 22, please signify by stating aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by stating no. It passes by unanimous voice vote. Article 17.
Madam Moderator, a point of personal privilege, please. Our ranks are thinning out here, and as chairman of the Finance Committee, we printed 250 copies. Could I ask, as you leave, to take 2 more? Thank you, Madam Moderator.
They kind of lose their value after this evening, but in any event. Article 17. Is there a motion on Article 17?
Madam Moderator, I move that the town vote to appropriate $2 million for the purpose of developing engineering plans for the conversion of gravity sewer lines to low-pressure sewer lines that feed to the Smith Street pump station, including the payment of all costs incidental and related thereto, and that to meet this appropriation, the town treasurer, with the approval of the Board of Selectmen, is authorized to borrow said amount under and pursuant to General Law, Chapter 44, Section 7.7, or pursuant to any other enabling authority, and to issue bonds and notes of the town therefore.
Second.
Is there a second? The motion's been made and seconded on Article 17. May I have the vote and recommendation of the Board of Selectmen?
Board of Selectmen recommended favorable action 4-0-0.
May I have the board vote and recommendation of the Finance Committee?
The Finance Committee voted favorably 7-0-0 to recommend.
Is there anything further to be said on Article 17? Mr. Dunlop, please.
Yes, this Whip Street section is a low-lying area underwater at high tide. Engineering studies done a few years ago by CDM and again a year or so ago by GDH showed that the infiltration in the Swifts Beach area is one of the highest that we have in town. This infiltration costs us thousands in pumping seawater that we then have to treat through the plant. The pipes are old. The system was put in back in the 70s, I believe in 78. It's extremely deteriorated, but the problem is that it's a gravity system and it runs downhill to the beach. So some places at the beach along Juan Kiko, which is parallel to the beach, it's 17 feet down. Replacing it is just out of the question. This appropriation is to study whether a low-pressure system could be used to replace it or what is a better way to replace it? Again, without the engineering study, we cannot apply for funds to do this project. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anything further to be said on Article 17? Yes, Mr. Muniz.
Jim Muniz, Precinct 4. I could get an answer to an earlier question related to this. Will we be bidding out request for quotes and or response for the engineering portion of these?
If there's anyone here that wishes to answer that question, I didn't quite hear it actually.
Well, would we put out for bid engineering, the engineering either for response or quotes? And I believe our Chief Procurement Officer is here now and could probably give us some indication on which direction we'd go on this, I would hope.
Is there anyone that can answer the Mr. Muniz's question?
Madam Moderator, to answer the question, at this point in time, we have the engineers are doing the studying of the actual Swiss Beach area. They're preparing the funding applications, and we will continue to grant the award the engineering firm that produced that. Procurement under the state law, engineering is exempt from the RFP. The town of Wareham, over the years, we've selected 7 engineering firms that we work with closely by putting out a request for qualifications, and we'll work within those engineers that we have in our request for qualifications. Thank you.
And another clarification. The Smith Lane lines, the Smith Street lines, are those the ones over towards Hamilton Beach and Swift's Neck and not Swift's Beach, or is it the one along Wonkinko that we already funded?
Mr. Campagna, to answer the question.
Smith's Pump Station is next to Hamilton Beach area, that entire area there. Everything in Swiss Beach, including what comes from Ruggles Pump Station, goes to the Swiss Beach Pump Station. Swiss Beach Pump Station has been identified as the highest producer of infiltration inflow in the town of Wareham. 40% of all I&I is inflow in that area, so it's been identified as an area of major concern and is causing major issues at the treatment plant. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anything further to be said on Article 17? Seeing no one else standing, we'll go to a vote on Article 17. Again, it's a borrowing article, requires a 2/3 vote. All those in favor of the motion on Article 17, please signify by stating aye. All those opposed, please signify by stating no. Passes by unanimous voice vote. Article 28. Is there a motion on Article 28?
Madam Moderator, 28, rescind Article 17 from the 20. Oh, I apologize. I didn't have my notes back. Sorry about that.
Sam Corbett.
Article 28 is, I understand, is a citizen's petition. So I will recognize the spokesperson for the petition. If you could state your name and your address.
Sam Corbett for Jonathan Lane, Precinct 4. I'd like to move Article 28 for approval.
Second.
So with regard to your motion, is it as stated up on the
Yes.
screen or something different?
Yes, I'm
So
sorry.
Your motion is I move that the town vote to rescind its prior vote, approving Article 17 from the fall 2021 town meeting, and further to authorize the Board of Selectmen to notify the state legislature of the vote of decision and to request no further action to be taken towards legislature approval of Article 17. Is that your motion?
Yes.
Is there a second on
Yes.
that motion? The motion on Article 17 has been moved and seconded. You have the floor, Mr. Corbett.
Yes. I'm basically here to keep things the way they are. We have a redevelopment authority that's working. We have a chief executive officer up to Derek, who's on the committee. The new committee he would not be on. He could speak, he could show up, but he won't have a vote. He's done a great job. I mean, we just voted on stabilization. It stands, I think, at 4.5 million. We're getting rid of old schools. We have a capital plan that works. He's doing a great job. I think he should be on the committee to speak for the people of Wareham. And we have an expert over in the corner, Ken Buckland, our planner. He should not only be on the committee, he should have a vote. He's done a great job. He's been working with the authority already. He's done a phenomenal job. They've got a plan for redevelopment of Main Street on the planning board. They presented to us last time, and it's an awesome plan. Will it work? I hope so. If we try, we may get it. If we don't try it, something we'll get nothing. So I think he should be on the board and have a say. The new board is 7 members. Derek wouldn't have a say. Our planner wouldn't have a say. They have the authority to hire different experts, and I'll hire counsel. We have that. The present authority is spending 0 money, and they made a lot of progress. I know it's all in your brochure there. I know there's a lot of information there. I wanted to give you what we have, what potentially is available through Article 17. It's a win-win for Wareham. We already have the executive officer. We already have a planner. We already have town council. The authority's done some wonderful things. Tremont Nail, Littleton, the sale down to Bay Point, brought in roughly $1 million and put out about $1 million for great projects in the town. So I hope you support this action. Any questions?
So before we proceed to the speaker standing at the mic, may I have the vote and the recommendation of the Board of Selectmen?
Board of Selectmen supports favorable action 4-0-0.
May I have the vote and the recommendation of the Finance Committee?
Madam Moderator, it being a petitioned article, the Finance Committee makes a habit of not voting on these and allowing the petition to go directly to town meeting.
Thank you. Thank you. Lady behind Mr. Corbett.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Brenda Ekstrom, Precinct 2. I would like to amend this to move no action on this article.
So then a motion made and seconded for no action on Article 28.
Correct.
Would you like to speak to your,
yes, thank you.
Motion to amend?
This is in no way disrespecting the town administrator or the town planner. The way that it was written was for them to be ex officio members, which means that they do have a voice at the table. But what I tried to do when we changed this last year was I was trying to give the people in this town a say in what they want the town to look like. They're elected positions, and in almost every other town where they have a redevelopment authority, they're elected positions, and one is appointed by the governor. I had it so that the Board of Selectmen could put people on it, could appoint people on it, so that they could have a say, but that the people in this town could have a say. People with, you know, architectural backgrounds, with planning backgrounds. We have so much of that in town, and that they could run and tell people what they want the town to look like, what they want to do with the town.
30 seconds and counting down.
It's 5 minutes, really? Because if it's a new motion, I get 5 minutes. But I will finish up in the 30 seconds.
Thank you.
But I just would like it to be no action so that we can at least empower the people of this town. We have very few things that we vote for. Selectmen, assessors, and school committee, I think, are it. Having a redevelopment authority where we get to say what we want our town to look like, I think is very important. And I urge no action. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anything to be said on the amendment, which is a motion for no action on Article 28? Yes, Mr. Titlebaum.
Yeah, I urge you to vote down Peter Titlebaum, Precinct 3, former selectman, former chairman of the WRA for 4 years. I urge you to vote down the amendment and to vote in favor of the main motion here. The body should know that the redevelopment authority, last year, this body bought sort of a pig in a poke. What happened was you had a private dispute basically between a disgruntled citizen member and the town administrator over the acquisition of the Bay Point Golf Club. That member thought he'd put together a deal where the developer would only have to put half the money up, get control of the property, and then pay off the rest once he started making money. The town administrator said, this doesn't meet the RFP we sent out. It's going to create a procurement violation. And so it was not done. My understanding is that person went to the person who presented the article last year and said, well, you know, this isn't right. We can't get anything done. He couldn't understand how government works, didn't understand the pace, and didn't care if an action was illegal. So that's the first point I want to make. The second point I want to make is that I have to correct Mr. Corbett on one point. The Redevelopment Authority actually pays a whopping $7,500 a year to get the expertise of the town planner, because that's out of his contract. He doesn't have to do this. He really is putting in about 30 grand worth of work. If you go to a citizen board, you're going to have to come up with a full-time director. And those guys aren't cheap. They're going to get 125, 150 grand a year. So think about it. And in a town this size, do we have 40 hours of work a week for a full-time WRA director? No. Ken Buckland probably puts in 10 or 15 hours. That's adequate to what's being done. That's adequate to do Littleton Drive. That's adequate to do a redevelopment plan for downtown like they're doing. It's working as is. So I urge you to vote down the amendment and to vote in favor of Mr. Corbett's article.
Thank you. Mr. Moniz, as to the amendment only.
I agree, thank you. I'm voting in favor of the amendment. I believe the article we passed last spring provides a balanced redevelopment authority with 4 elected and 3 appointed and ex officio non-voting members of the Director of Planning and also the Town Administrator. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Jody Santagate. Could somebody please review Article 17 since we're discussing it, possibly amending it? I'm familiar with it. I remember it from last year, but I'm not sure everybody in the room does, and I think to be fair to everybody here, we should at least read Article 17 again. Thank you.
It is in,
Mr. Solly.
I believe it's on page 29. I'm just trying to find the article and what they had presented, whether the old article is there. Thank you. I think people have in front of them, rather than hearing my boring voice, they can read it for themselves, and maybe we can take some people.
All right, did you want to be recognized?
Yes, ma'am.
Not you.
Thank you. Judith Whiteside, Precinct 3. The fact of the matter is that the WRA has had public hearings about WV1 or Wareham Village 1. They were held on one of the hottest days of the year. And they were well attended, and there were a lot of suggestions that were taken under consideration by the WRA consultant. So the public has, in fact, an opportunity to speak to what the public would like to see in terms of development or lack of development in the town of Wareham. You already have the handout, which is a 2-sided document. It gives a lot of facts about the accomplishments of the WRA in 4 short years. And those of you who've been around for a while know that the previous body, known as CETA, really wasn't able to accomplish very much. My comment would be, why would we fix it when it ain't broke?
I'm sorry, thank you. The next speaker as to the amendment?
Leslie Edwards Davis, Precinct 1. Fall Town Meeting 2021 felt it was broken, and we voted by a large majority to change it because we felt it was broken. We did, actually. It passed. And I think that this is a very small group of people to go back and now rescind a vote that we took last fall with more people than are here tonight. If we're in the business of going back and looking at our past votes every time we make a decision, we will be here forever if we're going back and saying, oh, well, I don't like how that one turned out. Let's re-vote on that one. The fact is we considered it and we voted to change a few things about how the WRA is constituted. It does not change the fact that the committee can be informed by the town planner and by the town administrator. They have a voice on the committee. It does not require the hiring of a full-time director. That's not accurate. And when the proponent presented this at the Finance Committee, he said that we passed payment to the committee members, which is totally not factual. I feel like what we need is a WRA that is in step with the voters, and what we voted on what sought to achieve that. And I would suggest that we table this.
Yes, sir.
I'm Neil Sullivan, Groveland Street, Nauset. I sit here and ask you to not agree to the amendment and to vote in favor of this article for many of the reasons that Peter brought up. But before I go into my own reasons, I think we should recognize that Mr. Sullivan and Mr. Buckland have done a fantastic job with the resources they have and with the accomplishments they have made over the past decade. You can see it in your materials that are handed out to you, but they are substantial in nature. My concern with the citizen board is that these projects take an extremely long period of time, sometimes 10 years or more to come to fruition. And having a board that may or may not have experience coming into this and shuffling out every 3 to 5 years, I don't think is a wise way to go about this. Having the town administrator and a director of planning intimately involved in voting on all these projects has worked successfully for this town. I think the vote last fall was a little misguided, but that's my own opinion. But it was done with a very small number of people in the room, much like we have here today. And when you have a small number of people in a room, you can get things turned over. We've heard from the Board of Selectmen that are unanimously in favor of this. I think if it's not broken, don't fix it. And I once again congratulate both of those individuals on a job well done.
Thank you. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Moderator. Dan Butler, Precinct 1, and I'm the citizen at large appointee on the Wareham Redevelopment Authority currently. I was appointed a year ago by the Board of Selectmen, and I'm since May I've been the chairman of the WRA. And I want to echo what has been said and refute one thing that was said. It's been said that the WRA is broken, and that is absolutely wrong. It is not broken, it's working well. And I'll echo what Ms. Whiteside just said. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. The WRA is well organized. It's lean. It's only 5 members, but it's 5 appropriate members. 2 are elected by the citizens of Wareham, the selectmen who sit on the Wareham Redevelopment Authority. A third is an average Joe, a citizen like me, appointed by the selectmen. And we have the expertise that we require, and that expertise from the town administrator and from our director of planning and community development. But those experts do need to vote. Their vote matters because they have to carry out the work of the Wareham Redevelopment Authority. I want to urge my fellow voters to reject the amendment that was just offered and vote yes on Article 28. If we reorganize the WRA for a second time in less than 5 years, all we're going to do is lose the traction and the momentum that we've gained in the last couple of years, and we are making good progress. in redevelopment here in Wareham, and that's what we want. We want to make Wareham better. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Diane Kenny, East Wareham. The vote we made last year, I found a prior comment to be a little insulting. It wasn't misguided. It was carefully thought out and researched. I think the disconnect exists between what the town of Wareham residents want and what our government wants. And any way that we can get in and get our opinion heard and listened to. We don't have many opportunities. We can't speak at select board meetings. The only kind of meeting we can attend and speak on is an actual public meeting, which is, not always held during times when people can attend. So my vote was not misguided. I voted for a reason, and I find the fact that we come back a year later to just rescind that vote to be very insulting also. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
David Hurd, Precinct 3. I urge that you reject the amendment and vote in favor of Article 28. And I move the question.
Second.
No, you can't make a speech and actually move the question. Is there anything further to be said on Article 28? Yes, Mrs. Slavin.
My question is, Article 17 from Fall 21 was 10 months ago. The redevelopment authority has been working as it has been, but my question is, why has not Article 17 been passed by the legislature to implement it?
If anyone can answer the question, Mr. Slavin.
Unfortunately,
Mr. Slavin, just to answer the question.
Yes, well, no sidebars today. Unfortunately, the Senate and the House, especially on home rule charter articles, et cetera, because of COVID, et cetera, they are over 2 years behind. I basically myself, I know Mrs. Whiteside, we check every couple of weeks to find out what's going on. These articles, which we have 3, not just this one, are in the 3rd reading, which is supposed to be the last one. They've been in the 3rd reading for months. And I don't think anything is going to happen until after the first of the year, unfortunately. And we're trying as hard as we can to get them done. We constantly call our Senator Pacheco, who is the one that has to take care of it for us, and there's no action going on. And that's the simple answer.
Something to that?
Well, actually,
it is
no,
all to answer the question.
No, you're out of order.
No,
you're out of order. I have not recognized you. And I think at this point, you probably are out of time. So
well, I had 5 minutes, if you remember.
Recognize the person behind you.
No, if you remember, I had 5 minutes. This is my amendment, and I only took 2. I just want one more second to say.
You can say one more. You have one more second.
I just want to say.
I don't appreciate the disrespect, but you have one more second.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. I just want to say that this may have been able to go a little further had this Board of Selectmen put them through. We had to call our Senator Pacheco to find out that these had never been put through. They weren't put through until January. And that's what happened, and that's why they're delayed. It's us and for the sewer department as well, I believe. Oh no, it was for, what was yours? Well, anyway, it was another one, but they did not put them through. That's why they're delayed.
Yeah.
Annie Hayes.
No, please. Sorry. Have some respect for the people standing ready to speak. Yes, ma'am.
Annie Hayes, 52 Farmers Lane. I want to concur with Ms. Kenny's remark about the need for citizens to be able to communicate at these meetings. There are a lot of people in town who have a lot of expertise and study a great deal and have a lot to contribute. And when you go to a meeting and you have poignant questions and you can't ask them, it's very concerning. I am sure people glean, am very concerned about climate sea level rise. A few years back, the municipal vulnerability study said that the Narrows and Tremont Nail were the most vulnerable places in downtown. And we have 2 anchor projects that are spending millions of dollars in those very spots. So that doesn't mean that they're not sea level rise impermeable, but I don't know that because it's changing so fast. And so I think the public should be honored in their expertise and their questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Thomas Bickey, Precinct 3. I want to remind this body, through you to a previous speaker, remind this body that in 2018, we approved the WRA in this town meeting. And so it's a bit disingenuous for a previous speaker to stand up and say they're outraged that we're revisiting it again after they revisited the 2018 passing of the WRA. So keep in mind that the revisiting is being done by the petitioners who are proposing this amendment. And I suggest that we vote this amendment down and we pass Article 28. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
All right, so right now we have what I would consider professionals on the
We know
WRA.
who you are, I think, but why don't you state your name and your
Oh, Patrick
address?
Tropiano, Dowdap.
Thank you.
All right, so we have what I consider professionals with the planner and the town administrator and all those who have a very big interest in how the community functions and so on. Just because we have an elected board, to replace them doesn't mean we're going to get people with any knowledge or any idea of how to handle it or anything else. And I'll tell you a little story. I ran for selectman once. You might have known that I've done that a few times. And we were at a meeting, and they were asking questions of all the selectman candidates at the time. And the question was asked, what do selectmen do? And the question was ruled out of order because I was the only one who was going to be able to answer the question. So if you, in fact, ask for a board of elected officials, there is no guarantee at all that you're going to get anybody that has any knowledge about any of it. Right now we have professionals doing the job. Not only that, but long-term professionals, because sometimes they're absolutely correct. These kind of things can take 10 years to come to fruition. And by the way, we've had others. We had the EDIC, didn't work very well. They just spent a whole bunch of money, never did anything. Then we had CEDARS. They did a lot of nothing and did nothing. All they did was manage a grant. That's it. So this works. I'm done. this will work fine. I'm all set.
You saw the cane. Thank you. Yes, sir. Gentleman behind you. Oh. Is there anything further to be said on Article 28?
Madam Moderator, I may. On the amendment, none of the speakers have offered any evidence to say that the elected board that they recommend would have picked up on opportunities that the current board has missed. They've been very busy over there, and I can't understand why we need, or how an elected board would do a better job. What opportunities have been missed because of the current makeup of the board and the way it's been appointed? I just have a blank. I draw a blankness to understand the need for something such as this. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anything further to be said on Article 28? And I will note that we're approaching the hour of 10 o'clock. We have one more article after this one. So seeing no one standing, I'd like to proceed to a vote on the motion, the amended motion, which is a motion for no action on Article 28. All those in favor, please signify by stating aye. All those opposed signify by stating no.
No.
The noes have it. The amendment has failed. We go now to a vote on the main motion. All those in favor of the main motion? Yes. You may. We're approaching the hour of 10, so. I can't hear you. Yeah.
I believe as part of town meeting, we're allowed to speak to the main motion, which now
Yes, you can
becomes the
speak to
motion.
the main motion. Go ahead.
Oh,
Go.
okay, thank you very much. If you look through the material that was sent out, there was some funding sheets and some, I would like some information related to if the Littleton, the Penrose project for Littleton Drive, if we've received the $200,000 funding for that, and if a contract has been signed to receive that at this point in time.
Is that a question? Is there
That's
anyone
one of
here
the
that
questions.
Is there anyone here that can answer that question?
Thank you. The funds they have on hand are $651,000. The sheet that's inside the Finance Committee handbook is a sheet that was handed out through the meeting minutes, and that is not something that's been voted upon. It was a general discussion, so the project's in there. So it's tough to discuss that. That's why I had spoken to the Finance Committee asking why that had been in there, but apparently it was presented to them. So, everything that's in there has not sort of come to fruition or been voted upon.
Is that a yes or a no?
For I'm sorry, it's Jim. I'm having
Is that a yes or a no
to what?
of whether we received $200,000 from Penrose Corporation related to the Littleton Drive?
We have not
project?
received that. No, and I know you're right. When you requested the information today, we only had the $651,000.
So that's not from Littleton? No.
Correct. That's not
Okay.
Littleton.
And has the WRA refunded the $250,000 to the CBDG grant funding to either CBDG or the town, of which we could have expended for other uses? It was improperly used, and that's why it has to be returned. Could you answer that, please?
The $250,000 of CDBG funds, which
that was used for Recovery Road. I mean, Recovery Road.
Yeah, the reduction has been done on that, but that's the funding from the CDBG program. They have those funds back so that there's no more money that's owed from 4 Recovery Road, which is now rented out for approximately, and I'm sorry, I think it's
$61,000 a year.
How much is that a month?
That's correct. That's correct. You're out of the scope of the article, Mr. Mayor.
That was part of the background information given related to the article.
The scope
Thank
of the
you.
article.
Thank you, and I hope everybody listened. Thank you.
I move the question.
Second.
You beat me to it.
There's been a motion made and seconded to move the question. It's not a debatable motion. It requires a 2/3 vote, and then we'll go to a vote if it passes. All those in favor of the motion to move the previous question, please signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please signify by stating no. The ayes have it. We will go to a vote on Article 28, the main motion. I move that the town vote to rescind its prior vote, approving Article 17 from the fall 2021 town meeting, and further to authorize the Board of Selectmen to notify the state legislature of the vote of rescission and to request no further action to be taken toward legislature approval of Article 17. All those in favor of the motion, the main motion, please signify by stating aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by stating nay. The ayes have it, the motion passes. Article 5. Article 5. Yes, there's been a motion to go past the hour of 10 o'clock.
Second.
And seconded so that we can finish the last article, which is Article 5. Is there a motion on Article 5?
Madam Moderator, Article 5, I move the town approve and fund the collective bargaining agreement between the town of Wareham and Massachusetts Laborers Public Employees Council Union 1249 of the Laborers International Union of North America, Wareham Clerical Union. And section C, Massachusetts Laborers Public Employees Council Union 1249 of the Laborers International Union of North America, Wareham Municipal Maintenance Department, and the town custodians.
Second. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion been made and second on Article 5. May I have the vote and the recommendation of the Board of Selectmen?
Board of Selectmen voted 5-0, favorable action.
May I have the vote and the recommendation of the Finance Committee?
The Finance Committee had not voted on this at the time of their meeting. The contracts had not been settled.
Is there anything to be said on Article 5?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Moderator. The clerical union voted to ratify this contract today, which allowed us to bring it to town meeting. This is a contract that goes back to July 1 of this year, and then will go out through June 30th of 2025. There is some contractual language in there, including adding Juneteenth as a holiday. Also that funding of educational assistance and such require pre-approval, so if somebody thinks they'll get an educational assistance, they need to get it approved ahead of time, because you don't want somebody to go out and spend money on something if it's not there for them. The other item is that creates a classification and compensation plan, including having reviews for the clerical members, and then going on the classification compensation and you create a new salary schedule that reflects you go up on a step every year of your service, instead of having some that it would be a 15 or 20 year step. So, and then on top of that, in year 1, you have a 3% increase, year 2, a 2% increase, year 3, a 2% increase, and then allowing those employees that maybe have what you've called stepped out, no longer receive steps, they would receive, have 10 years of service, would receive an annual payment of $1,000. Then upon 20 years of service, they would receive not an additional, but a new annual payment of $1,500. And that is for the clerical union, and the cost for the 15 full-time and 5 part-time members is approximately $27,000.
Thank you, Mr. Sullivan. Is there anything further to be said on Article 5?
And then the other article, I apologize, yeah, we gotta go, is the Municipal Maintenance Laborers Department. I'm going to try and move this along. That is the hours of work, making sure that normally they're Monday through Friday, and there is an alternate schedule of Tuesday through Thursday, but we cannot place all the members on that Tuesday through Saturday. We can't place all the members on that. There's a maximum of 1 laborer, 1 heavy equipment operator. And then going through really it's the compensation, they get the smoothed out schedule as well. They have a 9th step, which is 3% greater. And then current employees will be advanced a step every year. Also, if you are a heavy equipment operator, you receive an annual stipend of $1,500 for holding a Class A CDL, a 4E and 4G hydraulic license. And then the first year of the contract is a 3% increase, a 2% for year 2, 2% for year 3. Since those steps as well, they receive someone that's been there for 15 consecutive years receives $500 as an annual longevity stipend, and then the mechanics also receive a $500 per year tool allowance. This impacts a total of 16 bargaining members And this one is approximately $35,000.
Thank you, Mr. Sullivan, for that explanation. Is anything further to be said on Article 5? Seeing no one standing, we'll go to vote on Article 5. All those in favor of the motion on Article 5, please signify by stating aye.
Aye.
All those opposed signify by stating no. It's passed by unanimous voice vote. I entertain a motion to dissolve the town meeting since we have addressed.
Order 8 and 9.
Hang on a second.
They were in the consent agenda. Yeah.
Right. So, entertain a motion to dissolve the town meeting, since we have addressed all the articles.
Second.
All in favor, please state by saying
Aye.
aye. Any opposed? Nay? No.
And
Thank you.
thank you.
all for being
And don't
here
forget
this
your
evening.
extra town reports.
And the real drama was Bailey Zappi got pulled in for Mac Jones. They-